Hey everyone, I am back out in the garage. It is Saturday afternoon. Got a nice 8-hour shift of work in this morning. Got done just in time because it's going to be a high of 94 degrees today. And it's going to be very humid. So I'm in the garage, relatively cool in here. And we are going to continue working on the panel that we made yesterday. Next up is going to be scribing some lines for the mounting holes. We're going to center punch them, then we're going to take them over to the Whitney number 2 punch and we're going to punch those out. Then we are going to cut some tabs and punch those for some riv nuts, and we are going to locate those, get those welded in. Then we will make sure that the panel fits up nice and tidy, make any little adjustments we want to make. And then that part of the process will be done. After that, I still need to mount up some turn signals. I was going to use the factory Toyota ones and put them up right here like that, but I don't really like it. They're really big and bulky. I was thinking it might look better centered underneath the headlight, but they're kind of just hanging out in space. Not the biggest fan of that. Plus mounting them, it's not going to be hard, but it's not a really easy, clean way to do it. So I went to the auto parts store and I got these little LED running board lights that I'm going to make into turn signals. I'll just make a little aluminum bracket that these bolt to, and then the aluminum bracket will bolt to the outer edge of the core support here, and so they'll be recessed back in there. They won't be part of the bumper. I think that's the best way to go. I think it'll look a little better than having them sticking right up here flush. And so we are going to do that. Once that is all done, then it's going to be time to prep the core support and anything else behind the bumper to paint satin black. So we'll have a bunch of Scotch brighting and cleaning, and then a whole bunch of masking and taping to get that ready, and then we'll go ahead and coat all that and let that dry. And then once that's dry, then we will mask that as well, and we will give the tube bumper a sand. Then we'll give it an etch prime for we'll use some bare metal primer, and after that we are going to paint it gloss black. The finishing touches are just going to be to wire in the turn signals and the hella lights here, and then the whole front end will be a wrap. And then I can move on to doing some rock crawler sides, which you will see in a later episode. So let's get started on the panel here. I have my edge scribe here. Just has a nice little tungsten tip. You've seen me use this before earlier in the videos. And I have it set to the dimension I want. So we are going to make a scribe. This is the back side of the panel, so the scribe marks won't be visible, and also it makes it easier to center punch since the panel lays flat, since all of the bead rolling comes upwards from this direction. So there's that. We'll mark the other edge here. And this one, actually, there's a lot more room here, and so I kind of want to split the difference. This worked pretty good for that edge. You can see that the center punch is pretty much halfway between the edge of the bead rolled element and the edge of the panel, whereas with this scribe mark, it is definitely not. So we're going to add some distance to the scribe here. Try to get it a little more centered. See how that does. A little less than that. I'll give this a try. Tighten that up. And so I think that is just going to work a little bit better. Pretty similar distance from this bead rolled element to this one. So we are going to roll with it. And I think we're also going to bolt it on the center of these flat spots. So let me kind of figure out what's gonna look best for that. I think we'll need to take a little distance out of this guy. Maybe a 1/16. Try this. Yeah, like that. Mark all these. And for center, I'm going to use a pen and a ruler. Fudge the center of that. Do the same for the next core. Alright, now I'm going to give these guys a punch. Hopefully there's enough room here. I think I'm gonna have to swivel that guy there. And we'll roll some punches. Nice crisp pull. Alright, and there we go, some mounting holes. Now, you have the choice to make them even with respect to the edge of the panel or make them even with your design elements. So I chose to make this one center on this ridge, make this one center, and so on. I think once the hardware's in there, it'll look fine. First, I'm going to start making a bunch of tabs, and we will weld these in, and if it's going to sit flat and not rattle around on the bumper, then we will stick with this. But I'm thinking I'll have to punch a hole here and here. I'm going to take some flat stock that you saw me use for the brackets for the hella lights, and I'm going to put some radiuses on them, and then it is going to be time to punch them, put some nutserts in them, get the panel fitted and clamped in, and then tack weld the tabs in place. Alright, I've taken some 1" by 1/8" cold rolled flat stock here, and I've turned them into some little tabs, I found the center, I punched a hole with the punch, and I threw some riv nuts in there, and they are good to go. I kind of trim them to a generic length, and I will adjust them as I need. I have some temporary fasteners here, and here you can see I have the panel. I have it temporarily clamped into place. I have my first 2 tabs mounted right here, and this is probably not going to be able to see it, but they're all fit up on the back side. It's going to be a pretty tight squeeze to get some tacks in there. Since this is sheet metal, not aluminum, I'm really going to have to be very specific where I hit the tack so I don't actually tack the panel to the tubing, but I can get a tack on each one from below and I think from above, and then I'll unbolt the panel and I will finish weld them, put the panel back on, make sure that the tabs stay in the same plane and didn't, since I'm welding the backside, make sure they didn't fall towards the weld. If they did, I'll bend them back out, get that fit up. Then I will fit up the next set of tabs, and we'll keep going until it is mounted. It looks pretty good as far as the horizontal spot. I'd like to get away without putting tabs in there, but if it's going to rattle, then it's going to scrape some paint off, so I might end up putting one more on the top and the bottom. But for now, I got the welder out, I got the gas turned on, so I am going to tack these in and then we will get started on the next set. The tabs for these 2, and since these next ones are the same distance away, I'm going to install some tabs and check and see how they fit, and then cut them down to the appropriate length because we know where they need to wind up. Just use this guy here so we can get it parallel with the edge. Just use the pen here to make a mark. I'm going to go over to the foot shear, take a nibble off of this. Alright, get that snugged up. There we go. Now we'll do the next one. Alright, so let's get the panel back on. So now the next ones are not going to be the same length. I need to bolt it back on really and see, or I can, well, I basically just need to decide if we're gonna do this from the side like this, or we're gonna do it from the top. It really depends on the way that we can tack it, and I think we are gonna do it from the side. I believe that is gonna be the easier way of getting some tacks in there. So we will repeat the process. And now we just got to figure out the final two. I think welding these on. These are definitely going to have to be trimmed up to fit. I think I'm actually going to take a slice at them this way so that we can avoid the weld. This is the junction where the two pipes come together. So I think we are going to take a diagonal cut to try to give some clearance for that. And weld these onto the side. Alright, looks like the right side's going to work, the left side runs into the weld a little bit. So I am going to see if we can get the adjustment out of it that we need, and I cannot. So I'm going to have to grind off this corner here. Maybe I'll just probably get it in the foot shear real quick and take that corner off. Hopefully that will be all I need. Let's bolt this back on. I'm gonna switch over to the actual hardware I'm gonna use. And let's get this guy mounted up, check it out. We'll have to take it back off to do all the prep, of course, but I want to see what she looks like. I'm going to use some stainless steel button heads here. I think that'll be a nice clean look. I think I'm going to paint the panel here semi-gloss black to kind of have a little different look than the gloss black bumper, and I may end up ordering some black button heads if I don't like the way these stainless steel ones look, but they're the natural stainless, they're not like chrome plated, so I don't think they'll look too gaudy or anything like that. That's G-A-U-D-Y, not G-O-T-T-I. One thing you got to watch out for with nut certs is they are, or at least they can be, easier to strip out than other forms. So you just want to be aware of that. Make sure that your hardware is going in smoothly right from the get-go. If you cross-thread one of these, you can drill them out and punch a new one in. It's not the end of the world, but it's best just to be patient. All right, there's that. I'm gonna put my good versus evil license plate on there just to have a look. I'm not using my real license plate. That should be for obvious reasons. So I'll use my Nevada God 666 license plate. In case any of you are wondering, I am certainly not a Satanist. You may have noticed my collection of 666 plates. I'm not a Satanist. I tried to sell my soul to the devil. He didn't want it. He said he has plenty of politicians' souls, so doesn't have use for any normal souls anymore, so guess I'm on my own. That's just a really bad joke, by the way. So you can calm down. All right, let's step back, check it out. I don't think I'm gonna put any hardware in the middle here. It lays nice and flat. With the bead rolled element and the dimple dies, it is plenty stiff. And so let's look at it from a few different angles here. I think it turned out pretty damn good. Right now it's a little hard to see the bead rolled elements, I think, because it's just bare metal and the light's not hitting it very good, but you can see some pretty good symmetry there. It fits pretty good. You can see that it worked out pretty good to do all the bead rolling and the dimpling and then trim it to the final shape based on the template. With this much dimpling and bead rolling, which, I mean, it's not a whole lot of bead rolling, but if I'd cut the panel first and then done it, these edges would have been bowed or wavy a little bit, and you would have had to fight with straightening those. But since there was plenty of material on the edge, it didn't have that issue. And I like how the hardware turned out. It's not evenly spaced based on the length of it. It's spaced based on the bead rolled elements. So once it is painted, you'll be able to see that. And looking at it, since this kind of goes, you know, since it goes at an angle, these ones definitely could have been lower. They're on center of this part of the element, but you can see that with that radius, visually the center is maybe 3/16 of an inch lower, so that might have been nice to do, but I'm just kind of splitting hairs here. I always, as soon as I'm done building something, I always immediately find every little fault that I didn't find while I was building it, but pretty solid. Like I said, I like the look of it. Definitely is what needed to fill out the front end. I'm going to have to decide if there's anything else I want to do to it after I paint everything behind it, so that that stuff blends in to the chassis so it doesn't stick out. You won't be able to see the parts of the AC or the radiator or the core support or that little part of the water container for the windshield wiper washers. I'm going to spray paint the bottom of that, get rid of this chrome horn, or at least mount it somewhere else and paint it. I haven't even tried the horn to see what it sounds like yet, so I've barely really even driven this thing. But I think with the wheels we got on there and the 265, 75, 16 tires, it's got a lot nicer stance now, and the front bumper looks great. So I am going to take it all apart. We'll take the brush guard off, we'll take the hella lights off, and I'm going to sand and bare metal prime the brush guard, and then it's time to wear out my fingertips with some Scotch-Brite pads and some sandpaper, getting everything prepped for paint. Once I do that, I'll clean it all down with acetone, and then I will begin masking and taping everything. So that'll be like, you know, the hood, the headlights, little pieces under the headlight, around to the fenders. We'll have to mask the tires. We'll mask the actual bumper. I think there's little enough of the bumper that I may just use tape on it. Otherwise, some plastic bags or some grocery bags will work to cut, wrap around it, and tape, do it that way. We want whatever we mask to be pretty slim so that we can get in all the nooks and crannies and get that thing satin black. So it is now time for the least fun stuff. I thought I'd show you guys the box I put together. I have a bunch of these Stanley boxes full of various things. This one's full of metric nutserts and fasteners. This one is full of standard nutserts and fasteners, and I have one with AN fittings and one with a bunch of P-clamps and other types of stuff like that. So this is all stuff that I have sourced through McMaster-Carr. I have my M4, M5, M6, M8, and M10 nutserts. I have all of the button heads and some regular style heads. I have some nylock nuts and some regular nuts. I have some black oxide. These are some countersunk M8s for that bit that's in the hammer fab kit, so that these can flush mount to a panel. I have some little dome nuts here, which are kind of a nice addition, set things off. These are some M6 countersunk fasteners that also work with that same dimple. And I keep a 25/64 drill in here because that is the size that you drill for a panel for an M6 fastener, which is the most common one that you are going to use in metric applications for automotive or motorcycle style fabrication. And then I just got some random stuff like some studs. This thing comes in handy. Cost a bit of money to put together, but whenever I need a clean way to fasten something to a chassis or to my motorcycle, run over there and grab what I need, and I'm good to go. Alright, I'm gonna go play with my dog for a bit. He needs to get some energy out of him. I need some energy in me, but he needs some energy out of him. But peace! Alright, so I decided I am going to bring the 4Runner out of my garage, put on the driveway, and I'm going to give everything up front a wash. I'm gonna get a little bucket, get some soap in there, use a Scotch-Brite pad, and wash everything that we're gonna paint before I give a quick scuff with sandpaper. Stuff is just too oily and greasy. And I'm gonna also wash everything that I'm going to tape and mask, because I have a feeling the tape is not gonna stick to some of the surfaces as good as I want it to. I want to minimize all the overspray, do a pretty good job. I've put a lot of effort into this front bumper so far, so I want to keep everything as tidy as I can. So we're just going to drive this guy out of the garage, and this is going to be the first time that it has rolled with the rims on it. So I'll just set the camera up here on my Subaru, get a shot of it rolling. How did it look? It's my first time seeing it outside with these wheels, with the front bumper on, so now I can take a farther look back at it. Sometimes it looks different when you look at it from further away. I like the stance. The wheels are 16 by 8. I got an 1.5 inch spacer on there. Again, they're 265/75 16s. It's got a 2-inch lift on it with the Bilstein setup. I think it looks pretty badass. I'm not the biggest fan of it being red, but I think the gold on the red actually gives it a little bit of an old school feel, which I am totally down with. If I could, I would have, I don't know, a black 4Runner, or I don't know, basically anything but red.